friends, and welcome back to another video. In this video I thought we would have a little chat about some stereotypes that we really need to leave behind in 2022. This video has been inspired by the wonderful Sophie Butler, who is over on Instagram. So thank you for this, Sophie. Now I have about 8 stereotypes or myths, whatever you want to call them, to discuss. If you've got one, then drop it down below. What one really winds you up? So in no particular order, let's get on with this. So the first one that I would like to discuss is that disabled people don't get paid. You wouldn't ask a plumber to do some work for you and then say, oh, you know what, you did such a good job. Thank you so much. I tell you what, I'll make you a dinner instead. How about that? No, it wouldn't happen. You wouldn't ask someone who is an expert in their field to do some work for you and not expect to pay them. The world doesn't work like that, and disabled people add a lot of value. Many disabled people put a lot of work and a lot of effort into what they do, whether it's a motivational speaking or offering consultancy advice. And they deserve to be paid just like everybody else. Now this one grinds a lot of gears. And there's a misconception that disabled is a bad word. Now even back, you know, when I was younger and I was growing up and I was really struggling with disability and I hated being disabled, I never had a problem with the word disabled, and I didn't have a problem with calling myself disabled. It seems that many people in the non-disabled community have a problem with it, and they have to come up with like these terms to kind of make themselves feel more comfortable, like
handicapable, otherly abled,
people with compromised abilities,
special needs,
handicaps. I mean, I could go on, and I have made so many videos about this on TikTok and Instagram. Some of them are quite funny. Being disabled is not a bad thing, and then by non-disabled people coming up with these terms to make themselves feel better is, you know, really sort of like trying to disguise the fact that we are disabled, and we may have an impairment and it may be a little bit more tricky to do something. We may need a little bit more extra time, or we may need accommodations put into place, but you know, it's all about leveling out the playing field. And disabled is nothing to be ashamed of, and it's not a bad word, and we want to be recognised as having a disability. Do let me know if you've heard of any strange otherly able words. Now this is a very popular one within the disability wheelchair using community, and that is not all wheelchair users are paralysed and unable to walk. People with spinal cord injuries, some people can walk. And there are also many other conditions that mean that a person may have to use a wheelchair for a certain amount of time, but can also walk as well. I've actually done a whole video on this, outlining this whole subject. So if you haven't seen it, go and check that out, because it's quite educational. And you know, again, it wasn't until I started doing my work online that I realised that this was a thing, that people are so narrow-minded that they think all wheelchair users can't walk. I mean, I've always accepted the fact that there are ambulatory wheelchair users, but it just makes me feel really sick that people would think that someone is faking it for like attention or something. It's just, I hate it. So this needs to be left. We need to leave this behind and move on. You know what? If you've got 90-year-old Doris, right, who is going out to Marks and Spencer for the day, and she's walking around and she's struggling because her hips are giving up and her knees are giving up. You know, the daughter-in-law puts Doris in a wheelchair. No one bats an eyelid. Doris gets up to get in the car or walk a few steps. That's okay. But if a 21-year-old was to do that, completely different story. So you know what? Disability doesn't discriminate, people do. Which actually leads on really nicely to my next point. Disability has no age limit. It's a misconception that people think disability only affects older people. Well, it really doesn't, because I was 9 when I was made disabled, so I speak from experience here. And I think people really need to stop judging younger looking people for being disabled or parking in an accessible parking spot, and realize that this myth needs to be left behind. This whole stereotype needs to be left behind. This is going to lead really nicely onto my next point. Invisible disabilities exist, and there are so many invisible disabilities. If you have an invisible disability, do drop it down below, because I like to think that these videos are used as resources for people to educate themselves. So if they can have a look through the comments and learn a little bit more about your disability, I think it will really, really help. Again, I have to say, I was ignorant as to invisible disabilities before I started doing Wheelsnoheels and met Jessica. And I've really educated myself on this subject. Another myth is that, you know, brands don't want to invest in disabled people. Advertisers don't want to invest in disabled people. I saw a post the other day that someone didn't want to hire a disabled model because they don't think it is good for their brand, and it distracts from the products if you're using a disabled model. And I mean, that just really, really winds me up, because as a disabled child, I know I keep going back on, like, growing up with no one in the media, I was in a really bad way for so many years, and I found it so hard. And which is why representation matters massively. Not only that, it has shown to have a positive impact on branding and a positive impact on companies. If you make your company accessible, people are more likely to shop there, they are more likely to have repeat business and be loyal customers to you, and also their family members as well. Not forget the spending power of disabled people, which is something like 270 billion a year in the UK. That's massive. So I could go on and on and on about this subject of many different things, and I would love to hear some more down below, and maybe I can make a part 2. I hope that you have enjoyed this video and found it useful. If you have, then you might enjoy pet peeves of my wheelchair. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in my next one. Bye.